If you asked me a few years ago which city I'd recommend, I wouldn't have hesitated. Prague, no question. It's one of Europe's most famous destinations. Millions of visitors, countless awards, pictures that make everyone want to book a flight. So when another traveler told me, skip Prague, go to Krakow instead, I honestly laughed. Why would anyone skip one of Europe's greatest cities? Then, I visited both. And by the end of my trip, I realized something I never expected. This wasn't about finding a city that was better than Prague. It was about discovering a city that made me feel something Prague no longer could. Today, I'll explain why. Let's get one thing straight. Prague deserves its reputation. The first time you see the city skyline, it's unforgettable. Church towers rise above centuries-old rooftops. The Vltava River reflects buildings that seem untouched by time. And standing in the middle of Charles Bridge at sunrise, it's easy to understand why so many people call Prague one of Europe's most beautiful cities. For a while, I completely understood the hype. Every street looked like a movie set. Every corner revealed another incredible view. I remember thinking, this might actually be the perfect European city. Then, the city woke up. Within an hour, the bridge was full. Tour groups appeared from every direction. Finding a quiet moment became almost impossible. Restaurants filled. Squares became crowded. Every famous viewpoint required patience. None of this surprised me. Prague is world famous. Of course it's busy. But that experience planted a question in my mind. Is it still possible to experience Europe the way people did 20 or 30 years ago? Before the crowds, before social media, before every hidden place became famous? I didn't know it then, but I was about to find the answer. If I'm honest, Krakow wasn't supposed to be part of my trip. Like many travelers, I had focused all my attention on Prague. Krakow was simply nearby, an extra stop, nothing more. I expected a pleasant city, a few nice buildings, maybe a castle. Then I'd move on. I couldn't have been more wrong. The moment I stepped into the main market square, everything changed. It wasn't just the architecture, although it was stunning. It wasn't the size of the square, one of the largest medieval market squares in Europe. It wasn't even St. Mary's Basilica dominating the skyline. It was something much harder to describe. The atmosphere. People weren't rushing. Locals were having coffee before work. Students crossed the square with backpacks over one shoulder. Street musicians played for anyone willing to stop and listen. Nobody seemed to be in a hurry. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I wasn't visiting a tourist attraction. I was visiting a real city. And there's a huge difference. Most travelers eventually find themselves walking toward Wawel Castle. Naturally, I did the same. But what surprised me wasn't the castle. It was the walk getting there. The streets felt alive, not because they were crowded, but because they belonged to the people who actually live there. Families pushed baby strollers through quiet parks. Friends sat along the Vistula River talking for hours. Cyclists passed by without ringing their bells. Life didn't seem organized around tourism. Tourism simply existed alongside everyday life. That might sound like a small detail, but it completely changes the feeling of a place. Then I reached Wawel Hill, looking across the river, watching the city stretch into the distance. I suddenly realized something. I hadn't checked my phone in hours. I wasn't thinking about taking the perfect picture. I wasn't rushing to the next attraction. I was simply enjoying where I was. And that's becoming surprisingly rare. Because somewhere along the way, many famous destinations stopped being places to experience and became places to photograph. Krakow reminded me why I started traveling in the first place. Not to collect landmarks, but to collect moments. And I still hadn't discovered the city's most powerful story. That would come the next day. The next morning, I left the colorful streets of Krakow behind. Not for another castle, not for another viewpoint, but for a place that, honestly, millions of people visit every year, hoping they never have to experience anything like it again. About an hour outside the city lies Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial and Museum. Before coming here, I'd seen photographs, read books, watch documentaries. I thought I understood what happened. I was wrong. Nothing prepares you for walking through those gates. Nothing prepares you for seeing thousands of shoes, suitcases, children's belongings, and realizing they belonged to real people. People who had dreams, families, and ordinary lives, until history took everything away. No camera can truly capture what this place makes you feel. No video ever can. For a while, nobody speaks. Even complete strangers walk in silence. Because some places don't ask you to admire them. They ask you to remember. And somehow, that experience changed the way I looked at Krakow. The city was no longer just beautiful. It became meaningful. That's the remarkable thing about this city. It allows you to reflect, but it also reminds you to live. Back in the old town, everything felt different. Children laughed as pigeons scattered across the square. Street musicians played beneath the towers of St. Mary's Basilica. The aroma of freshly baked pastries drifted through narrow streets. Outdoor cafés filled with conversations in dozens of different languages. Life continued. Not because history had been forgotten, but because it had been remembered. And perhaps that's what makes Krakow so special. It's a city that carries the weight of history, without letting history define every moment. Then came dinner. I'll admit something. After visiting several famous European cities, I'd almost become used to paying tourist prices. So I ordered, without paying much attention to the menu, a traditional Polish meal, fresh bread, a local drink, dessert. When the bill arrived, I looked at it twice. Not because it was expensive, because I honestly expected it to cost much more. That happened more than once during my stay. Hotels, coffee, public transport, even many attractions. Krakow never felt cheap. It simply felt fair. And in today's Europe, that's becoming surprisingly uncommon. When people compare cities, they usually compare landmarks, castles, churches, museums, views. But after spending time in both Prague and Krakow, I realized I'd been asking the wrong question. The real question isn't, which city is more beautiful? Both are extraordinary. The real question is, how did each city make me feel? Prague impressed me, every single day. Its architecture, its bridges, its skyline, deserve every compliment they've ever received. But Krakow did something different. It slowed me down. Instead of rushing from attraction to attraction, I found myself sitting longer in cafes, walking streets without checking a map, watching local life instead of searching for the next photograph. For the first time in a long while, travel stopped feeling like a checklist. It felt like discovery again. And maybe that's exactly why experienced travelers keep recommending Krakow. Not because it's more famous, not because it's more spectacular, but because it still feels authentic. Like Europe before everyone found it. Here's my answer. No. Prague absolutely deserves a place on every traveler's bucket list. If you've never been, go. You'll understand why millions of people fall in love with it every year. But if you've already visited Prague, or you're looking for somewhere that offers history, beauty, culture, and a more relaxed atmosphere, don't overlook Krakow. It may not have the same global reputation yet, but sometimes the places that leave the biggest mark on our hearts are the ones we almost skipped. And that's exactly what nearly happened to me. Thankfully, it didn't. Travel isn't about proving one place is better than another. Every destination has its own story, its own character, its own soul. Prague tells one story, Krakow tells another, and both deserve to be heard. So now I'd love to hear from you. If you could visit only one, which would you choose? Prague or Krakow? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering destinations that deserve far more attention than they receive, subscribe to Far and Beyond, because sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a place you almost ignored. I'll see you in the next adventure.